What is going on, everybody? Broad Street Bouls, fourth episode of the first season. We are very excited and happy to announce, I guess I can say happy to announce, John Jansen over here.
Is that happy to announce, or are you sad to announce John Jansen on the show?
Say happy, but, I kind of a little bit, if I'm going to be honest, because, I like being honest on my show.
Do you? I like being super fake on my show. It's all fake.
It fits for you. It fits perfect. And then always got George Ryder over here too. George, how you doing today?
We're off to a good start. You guys are already going at it. We're like a minute in. This is crazy.
It's never going to stop. This is what it's going to be like forever.
It's not. It's going to be here the whole time. So today we have a lot of stuff to go over. I really, really wanted to hear John's take on just the entire Eagles season, even though we're still in the middle of playoffs. But and then after we get into the Eagles season, a lot of stuff going on there, especially with coaching changes and everything that everyone's leaving. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. And then after that, we will get into the championship games this weekend. That is going to be a lot of fun. If it's anything even close to last week, it's going to be an amazing weekend. So definitely can't wait for that. And then after that, we'll get into the MLB Hall of Fame, pretty much just how bad it is. I don't think anyone actually enjoys anything about how the MLB Hall of Fame voting goes. So we'll get into that too. And then however much time is left, some Sixers and Ben Simmons talk, because Ben Simmons, man, that's a whole thing. But we'll get into that later.
What's happening there? I haven't heard anything.
You haven't heard about Ben Simmons?
No.
He's an all-star this year.
He is?
Wait, no, that's Andrew Wiggins.
So am I. I'm apparently an all-star too.
All of us could be.
Yeah, we have the same amount of stats, so I could also get some all-star votes. Why not? Throw them my way, whoever it is.
Same amount of minutes played, same amount of practice. I mean, you're there.
I didn't get engaged during the season, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah. Ben doesn't have a radio show, so who's really winning?
Yeah, who's really winning out here? Who's getting paid that much amount of money to sit? Oh, it's great. It's great. Just sit. But we will definitely get into that later. Starting off, we got the Birds season. Something that I didn't see the Birds doing this well, I guess you could say. We'll just say winning 9 games. And I think me and George were more on the same board there. But John, what was kind of in the beginning of the season? What were kind of your thoughts? Did you feel like you were more correct, or, what are just kind of your thoughts on the whole Eagles season so far?
No, I mean, I was off in terms of, if we're going to go with wins, completely off. And especially when they started off 2-5, kind of showed that there were a lot of flaws in this team. But, what changes everything, what is the number one thing that could turn a team around is offensive line. And this offensive line went on a run that I don't think we've seen in Chicago. I think was the Bears, but they had Walter Payton in their backfield. They had 7 games of over 175 or more rushing yards in a game. Like, they were doing it with Miles Sanders and Jordan Howard. Whatever you think about Miles Sanders, he's not Walter bleeping Payton.
No.
Miles Sanders is just a decent back in this league. He's an average back. He's a good one. But the offensive line was the star of the show, and we saw that if an offensive line can dominate, it can even make a bad team look good. Unfortunately, though, they weren't dominating towards the end of the season, and then that's when we started to see kind of like the seam started to show. Like we were seeing what was wrong with this team, and it exposed a lot, but for a good thing, though. Like the team improved, and they certainly needed to. So it was good to see the improvement. But, yeah, you saw a lot of the issues as well by the end of the season. And it wasn't even just that Buccaneers game. It was the Giants game when they were tied with Jake Fromm at the half. It was the game against Washington where Taylor Heineke basically the first half just torched them. And the Eagles offense wasn't doing anything the first half. So there were seams showing, and then the Buccaneers when it all kind of just imploded and shone a light on everything.
Yeah. And another thing about the season too. So at the end of the season, it was huge on the radio. I just kept on hearing about it, was how the Eagles benched all of their starters. Do you think that actually would have changed anything? Do you think that if we didn't bench them and we let them keep on, staying hot, it is how they were trying to word it. Do you think if they stayed playing, do you think that would have really benefited them any more in that Buccaneers game?
If benching them would have made Tom Brady not playing the game, then I guess. But as long as Tom Brady was playing that game, and as long as the Bucs were even somewhat healthy, they had no shot. I mean, they truly that was more about. And look, the benching before the end of the regular season and into the playoffs. Like, I don't know. It's coaches do it all differently. There's no correlation to whether or not a team does well resting players or not. So there's no evidence at all to like back any of it up. But really, the Eagles just ran into a better team. That's all it was. Like they weren't playing the Giants and Washington and the Jets. And it was good that they beat those teams and not putting down those wins. But the Buccaneers were the second seed. They were one of the best teams in football all season long. And Brady, even with throwing to guys like Scotty Miller and all of those wide receivers, he's still a great quarterback. And we saw that.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I kept on hearing throughout the season. Like, you can only beat the teams that are in front of you. And I was on the side more. And I was on the side more where I was like, this team is still a bad team. We're just beating worse teams, And yeah, so we were beating the teams that were ahead of us, but I was still getting judged like this team won 9 games and like they deserve to be here. I was like, I don't want to take that away from them. But yeah, they beat the teams they were supposed to and just got beat up by the really bad ones.
It's just being realistic. Like,
exactly.
Yes, it was a great season. The wins were good. They beat the Jets, Washington, New York, all teams that they should have beaten. Yeah. They did it. But like it was a little bit of you needed to see some more proof to see not just are they improving. The improvement was already there. They showed that. Like if you were looking for improvement this season, you got exactly what you wanted. But if you really wanted to see how good this team was, then you wanted to see how they played against teams like the Bucs and Kansas City and all those good teams this season. And they were just they're bad. They weren't great. But that's again, it's still good to see the improvement, but it's just realistic of all right, well, now we know exactly kind of where they are in the place of football, especially in the NFC. They're a middle team on the fringe of making the playoffs. Like it's good because we didn't think they would be there. But now obviously the next step is how do you not become a fringe team and how can you actually beat some of those teams in next season?
Right.
The first round picks definitely helps that for sure.
It does help, but I always caution with that though, that it doesn't automatically mean those 3 first round, and it's a good spot to be in. I'm not saying that, but like Cleveland was in a spot too, where they had 3 first round picks and everybody thought they were great and they were all gone. Most of them or a few of them. I even think Peppers was traded, but it was that when Baker Mayfield was a complete bust. Like they had 3 first round picks and they all really didn't pan out. The draft picks are great, but it's all about how you use them. And honestly, if using them, the first round draft picks can be looked at too as, getting, trading for players as well. And it's not even quarterbacks I'm saying, but like trading around, being able to optimize those 3 first round picks to get maybe more sure players, because just drafting 3 first round picks, it's still a risk. Like, especially in the middle to late rounds. Brady sucks. Absolutely. But yeah. Yeah, but no, it's just I caution though, those 3 first round picks are good, but it's not going to just completely fix everything with this team. There's still a lot of work to be done and a lot of decisions to be made with those picks too that I think are interesting.
Yeah, and they could also be used as like assets,
Yeah, exactly. I think of them more as assets than anything. I don't look at those 3 picks and say like, oh well, 3 first round picks are going to change this team. I look at those as 3 really good assets that you can use in multiple ways to build this team, especially with the cap space that they have, and now with those 3 first round picks, there's just multiple options on how you can build this team. That's a great thing. Having those options is obviously very great.
Now these 3 first round picks, everyone is saying like what we should do with them and exactly who to get. I think that's more of a conversation for later. But trading them or not, like how much faith do you have in Jalen Hurts?
They're being traded. Well, the one of or 2 of them are going to be traded.
Right.
Yeah, they're absolutely going to be traded.
Yeah.
Howie Roseman is not going to sit there, especially one of those 15 or 16 picks. Like I don't think he's going to pick back to back. So one of those are probably going to get traded. And I imagine the 19th one gets traded as well. I think those get traded, but that's the beauty of it is though. It's not like you trade it away and be like, oh, well, that could have been, spent on a guy and that would have helped us out. Well, there's multiple different ways to build with, again, using the term assets. Like there's multiple different ways to build here. You have so many different assets to use. Money. You have these 3 first round draft picks, move them around, be different.
Right.
Like I hate the idea of going all in on one player, and everybody mentions Russell Wilson. Like, oh, what if you trade all 3 for Russell Wilson? Like, first of all, that wouldn't really happen. You would probably give up future first round draft picks, something like that, not all 3. Yeah. And second, you can still trade away for a decent quarterback or a good quarterback if you would want to, and still build everything else. This all or nothing attitude of like, you got to trade them all away or not. No, you could trade 1 or 2 away and still have a first round draft pick and still in those trades get a good player back or get even more draft capital in it. Like there's so many different ways to do this, and it's not just an all or nothing. You can do
Yeah.
both. You can trade for the quarterback if you want to and use one or two of those first round draft picks, and you can still use one of those draft picks and get a really good player. Like you can do both. It's not like you just go all or nothing in one.
Yeah, and that's kind of something that has been all over social media and everywhere is how trading all 3 first round picks for these guys. And how I view it is our team, is this Philadelphia Eagles team with Russell Wilson, how much better is it truly? Like, yes, obviously it makes the team better, but how much further is it really? You know what I mean? Are we beating these top teams? With any quarterback we really trade for, I don't really see that happening. So I'd rather, even though I'm not a Jalen Hurts kind of guy, even just like you said, maybe just trading away 1 or 2 of them for another good quarterback, maybe not an Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson type of guy, and then building around them and still using your picks. That's something else that I'd also be fighting for too.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know if Russell Wilson is going to be on the table. I don't know what but yeah, man, like that guy's so much better than Jalen Hurts. It's not even like I know I have my qualms about Hurts, but it's not even about him. Like Russell Wilson is one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. You're telling me you wouldn't want that? But the thing is, again, it's the approach of, well, if you get Russell Wilson, then you don't have any room to get any of these players. Yeah, you do. You still have room. Like how we've seen this all the time, man. Howie makes cap space work. They even got more cap space because of the Brandon Brooks retirement. Yep. Like Howie Roseman can make this work if he wants to. If the Eagles really wanted to win this season, they could make it happen and get Wilson or a quarterback like that if it's available. And also, get the free agents, still have draft capital left to build your team that way. Like it's again, they have so much that to feel like Russell Wilson would take away and suck up every single bit of that, it really wouldn't, and I think you can still build a really good team, even if you were to get a quarterback that's getting, that much money and that much you would have to give in a trade like Russell Wilson. I still think you'd be able to build with most of the assets that they have.
I'd hope so. I really hope they would, but
I think they do. Also, like teams can turn it around quick. Like Cincinnati's not good, by the way. Like Cincinnati's defense is not good.
Not right.
Cincinnati's offensive line is not good. What's the difference? Like they got a really good quarterback. They got things pretty stable around them with some really good wide receivers. And if Russell Wilson were to come to Philadelphia, he has a really great offensive line to work with. He does have one wide receiver in Devontae Smith, who is probably going to put up huge numbers if he would ever have a quarterback like that. Dallas Goedert's a top 5 tight end in this league. And if he's not, he's pretty close to it. And they could probably still go out and get a free agent wide receiver. And they could still build that defense. It's to say that the Eagles are like so far away, like, yeah, maybe, but like also it could change really quick. And I think Cincinnati's the big example of that one.
Especially a team that's like, we go into the season as a rebuilding team, and you come out, schedule or not, you win 9 games. Like that's a great rebuilding team.
Yeah, and again, things are made easier with offensive lines, and the Eagles' offensive line, unless they get hurt, which that can happen. Like there should be an expected regression on the offensive line, despite like Jason Kelce possibly returning if he does, and even if they have Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata, Jack Driscoll, even Landon Dickerson, all those guys are doing really well. But even if they do come back, like there's always regression with offensive line. The Eagles were a huge example of that. After the Super Bowl season, their offensive line was not the same till this season.
Yeah, now.
Yeah, a lot of injuries. They just never were the same. It's really tough to replicate that. The Cowboys, it happened to in 2016. They were talked about as being the best offensive line. They're going to dominate for decades, and all they've done. Still, a lot of those guys are there, all hurt. I mean, hurt all the time, not able to
hurt or traded.
Right. So it's expected to be like some regression there, and that's fine. But overall, it's going to project still as a really good offensive line, and you put a good quarterback behind that, a really good one like Russell Wilson, it's obviously going to pay dividends. So again, is that the right approach to take to get somebody like Russell Wilson? Probably not. Like, I don't think it'll be available, which is why the Eagles are seeming like they're sticking with Hurts, because there's likely not going to be anything there for them to take and to move on from Hurts from. But if it ever presented itself, Howie Roseman would be crazy, and he would absolutely jump on the possibility of getting a Russell Wilson. I just don't think it's going to be there.
So speaking of Jalen Hurts, we know that, yes, he came out, we expected this team to win maybe 5 or 6 games, but he comes out, wins 9 games, bring this team to the playoff, where I don't think any of us really expected us being a playoff team. Now, was it really him? That's kind of up for debate and everything. Obviously, it's a whole team, but I feel like a lot of quarterbacks could have fit in his role and could have done just as well or better. Now, Jalen Hurts, to you, do you think he showed major progression?
No, major, no. Not at all, because all the fundamental flaws that were there in college are still there. Yeah. But were there improvements? There. Absolutely. Like there were improvements this year. Hurts, I think the one thing that's even surprising coming out of college, I knew he was a great athlete and a really good runner. He is a really good runner, and I was not expecting that. I never would have thought he would have a 700-800 yard rushing season with 10 touchdowns and lead. I think he led the league in touchdowns for rushing quarterbacks. Like it was something I didn't think he was that good at, and it turned out him being better. And there were marginal improvements in the passing game, but the thing with Hurts is, like, as long as the pocket awareness isn't there, as long as he can't play within the pocket, his accuracy issues remain to be inconsistent. Like, as long as those fundamental passing things are there, the Eagles are always going to be in the market for a quarterback. Like, until that changes, then yeah, you can be like, hey, John, stop having that conversation. But until then, it's open. Like, it's open for the Eagles to look around and shop for it and try and find a better quarterback, because if he hasn't fixed those things fundamentally yet, all the way from college, like, this isn't a guy that played 1 year in college. Like, he is a polished, he's been around, he's been on great teams in Alabama and Oklahoma, in great offensive systems. He's been in the league in 1 year, his rookie season, where he played 3 games, which is enough to say that he played in his rookie season. He saw the NFL game, and he had an entire year, and those issues still persist. As long as they do, until he proves otherwise, then the Eagles are always going to be in a market for a quarterback. That doesn't mean that they fire away on it this offseason, because, again, I just don't know if it's going to be right time, right place, all that kind of stuff. But they will be shopping for quarterbacks. They always will be, if those things stay consistent.
Are you more in the spot for wanting to get rid of Hurts, like, as soon as possible, because you think it's kind of like a waste of time?
Well, you look for it.
Right, yeah, at least look for it.
You look for it. But that's the thing, though. Like, I don't know what quarterback I would want to take in the draft. Now, the thing is, I sit here right now, January 28th, and say that. But by the time we get there in April, there's going to be somebody in March, like February or March, some quarterback that everybody's like gushing over and salivating over, like, oh my God, this guy, you should see him on his pro day. The ball was coming out. It looked so smooth. Like, it's going to happen. Like, somebody's
Coward.
Yeah. So it's like, exactly. Coward's going to be like gushing over him. And then the entire NFL is just going to be like, oh my God, this guy's great. Like, it happens all the time, especially on the senior
every year.
It happens every year. So, like, that could happen. But as of right now, like, the Eagles aren't getting Aaron Rodgers. The Eagles likely aren't getting Russell Wilson. So that's completely off the table. Like, that's not going to happen. Derek Carr likely is not going to be available. I think he should get out of Vegas, but I think he's going to end up eventually staying there, and that's not going to be available. Like, Jimmy Garoppolo is, but Jimmy Garoppolo stinks. Jimmy Garoppolo sucks.
No,
exactly. I'm with you.
It is a marginal improvement at best, if anything, for Hurts. But I don't even think it's an improvement, because what Jimmy Garoppolo lacks in passing, he can't make up for with his legs the way Hurts can. So that's the thing. They will be shopping for it. But I think why they seem so committed is because it seems like there is no option available to them this offseason that they're going to say, yes, we should make the move. Because I'm thinking, with the amount of assets that they have and with the position that they're in, they're thinking, okay, we can make the big one. We can either get one of the top draft prospects, or we can get one of these top quarterbacks. And that's what I think they're going to wait for, especially in what is likely another transition period for the Eagles, where they may play well and could win some games, and Hurts can certainly do that for you. But, it's enough that they can continue to build this core and continue to build a good foundation, and then still have the assets to be able to get one of these huge quarterback acquisitions, whether that's through draft or free agency.
Yeah, and like, the thing about, like, this draft is, you look at the quarterbacks and then you look at next year's class, and it's just, next year's class is so much better. And there's just so many more guys that are intriguing and more like boom potential than this year. Like, this year, it's a lot of boom or bust, it seems like.
It is. It's a lot of guys too that had down seasons because they weren't draft eligible. And that's the thing that can always happen, like with the second year guys, and then they're draft eligible the next year, but they don't put up the same numbers, and everybody goes, like, what happened there? What's going on with you? Sam Howell's the perfect example of that. Sam Howell was amazing, and everybody was just loving this guy. And then he lost like 4 or 5, I think, NFL prospects on his team. And Mac Brown literally warned everybody, hey, we're really not that good. We're going to suck this year. And guess what? They were terrible. And Sam Howell got kind of the blame for it a little bit. And now everybody's like, oh, well, Sam Howell has some problems. So it could happen too next year that, we all thought Spencer Rattler was a for sure number 1. And that completely, that's someone of an anomaly. Like, we're not going to see that happen too often where everybody's so sure about a guy at number 1. It turns out to just completely fall flat on his face. But it can happen. And, I think the quarterback market, especially in the draft, it's still nobody knows. Nobody knows how to read it. It is basically you just try and find any kind of edge you can and seeing like, all right, maybe this guy's a big arm. Maybe this guy's athletically gifted, whatever it is, you're trying to find any advantage. Lamar Jackson was the last pick in the first round. Justin Herbert had Tua picked over him. Patrick Mahomes was an afterthought in the NFL draft. Everybody's like, why the hell is Andy Reid drafting this wild, mechanically imperfect quarterback out of Texas Tech? And all he's done to go on to do is be the best quarterback in football for the last 4 years. Like that's the thing about, drafting quarterbacks too, is that even with the quarterbacks in this draft, it is an imperfect science. We have no idea. And it's just whether or not Howie Roseman feels the need to want to take a risk on one of those, which again probably leads to no and sticking with Hurts.
Probably. So seeing Brandon Brooks with his retirement, and we don't know what's happening with Jason Kelce yet. Obviously, 2 huge hits to the offensive line. I mean, we didn't have Brooks all season, and they still played at an amazing level. But losing Kelce would also be just one of the biggest guys to lose. Definitely the biggest locker room guy, motivational speaker, this great player, just does everything right. Anything that you ask of him is just, he'll do it the best way possible. So losing him would be really bad, but we don't have that announcement yet, but we do have Brandon Brooks. How much do you think that this will affect it? I mean, Sayamalu was also out for the year. So we had a couple back. We had Landon playing left guard, and we had a couple different right guards at the time because injuries just kept on happening. How big is it really with Brandon Brooks leaving? I know we're getting like I think it's $16 million in cap.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's 12, something like that. So yeah, the money is great and everything, but how big of a difference and how much of an adjustment will this offensive line need to take with Brooks not being on the line?
Well, right. Like Brooks is better than anybody else the Eagles have because he was the best guard in football, and Jason Kelce's the best center in football. And so like, there's no direct replacement for them.
Yeah.
But the Eagles have the good thing is the Eagles have known this. Like for what? First of all, Brandon Brooks has been injured for the past like 2 or 3 years. Yeah. So they know like, oh, it's not saying they were thinking he was going to retire after his 10th year. We're going, yeah, we probably have to make sure we have a replacement for him if this continues to persist. Jason Kelce, there's been retirement rumors for like 3 or 4 years with him. Mm-hmm. They know he's going to retire. So they had the idea that these guys weren't probably going to be there for long, or at least with Brandon Brooks, there were going to be injury problems there consistently. So they went out and did something about it. They got Landon Dickerson, Jack Driscoll. I keep bringing his name up because he was injured. He was injured for most of the second half of the season, if I remember. He was injured for most of the season, and he was great. He's been great for the Eagles, and I've been really surprised with them. They get Sayamalu back. So they've retooled enough that they will have, I hate to say even a functional, they will have a pretty good offensive line. Is it going to be great like it was without Kelce and Brooks? Obviously not. But I think they're in a good position to where they've kind of known about these things and immediately retooled. And so they have at least something there in the waiting. And we've already seen them play. Like we've already seen Dickerson become a beast of an offensive lineman. So I still think they're in a good spot with their offensive line.
Yeah, because I know when I saw the announcement come out, I was definitely a little bit worried about it. But just like you said, I mean, he's been out literally every game this year, and just
again, you're never going to replace the production. It's not often you have the best offensive guard in football, so obviously that stings. And he's a great football player. He's a great person. He was great to have around for the Eagles and great representing the organization. So it's a big loss. Like, and it stinks because the guy had to retire maybe a little bit early, and we didn't get to see his full potential of his career. Like he was amazing. So it sucks, but the Eagles have kind of known about this, so everything's still all right with the offensive line, I think.
4 sacks allowed in his Eagles
It's crazy.
Career.
His stats are nuts, man.
It's insane. It's ridiculous.
That just doesn't happen. Like it's crazy, man. And he was good, but the thing is, like, right next to him is Lane Johnson, and he doesn't allow many sacks. And on the other side of him is Jason Kelce, and he also doesn't allow many sacks. they got lucky for a lot of the last, like, at least when they were healthy, lucky to really have the offensive line that they had, especially the Super Bowl run was the big one.
Yeah.
I mean, Jason Peters not being healthy and having Big V in wasn't great, but even he turned out to be decent. He got a contract from the Colts. Like, it's been the offensive line play in Philadelphia has actually been kind of a blessing because it's kind of kept them somewhat afloat when they really probably should have been crumbling the last few years.
Yeah, that's something gonna be something that we're gonna be looking back on a few years and it's like, damn, like I miss how you don't realize it until it's gone, and it's gonna be gone at one point, and we're gonna be like,
we've been so spoiled when it comes to offensive linemen.
We have,
man, like incredibly spoiled because basically Runyon and Trey Thomas were the two best tackles in football, and they were amazing. And like, there was some in between, but like we almost immediately went from that to like these other, like Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson and all that. And these guys
Jason
just
Peters
picked it up right away. So like there was a small gap where offensive line play wasn't that great, but it wasn't for long. And we've been kind of spoiled with great offensive lines in Philly.
Yeah, we have. Something that maybe we haven't been spoiled with in the past, since Reed, I would say, is the head coaching job. I mean, Doug had his couple years, but with Chip Kelly,
Chip Kelly was great.
Fantastic.
Right? The only thing they did wrong with Chip Kelly is they let him make personnel decisions, and that wasn't a great idea.
That was terrible. Terrible.
Not great.
Having Nick Sirianni, his first year, he makes the playoffs. Again, same reasoning that we're going to say with Jalen Hurts. He beat the teams he was supposed to beat. But how much of it do you like? How well of a season would you say Nick Sirianni has? Do you have more faith in him than, I mean, obviously in the beginning, we didn't really know much about Nick Sirianni. He was over in Indianapolis. He wasn't making play calls because Frank Reich was. So we didn't really know what to expect, but I know none of us, again, expected a playoff berth, and none of us expected to beat these 9 teams every time. And something that I saw to Nick Sirianni was in the beginning of the season, all of our coaches, they didn't seem to adjust when things weren't working. But something that Nick Sirianni did is he adjusted. He started to run the ball and he started to do other things. And even if it didn't work, I was happy with that. So Nick Sirianni, for me, I'm liking a little bit more and more every week throughout the football season. But what are kind of your thoughts on Nick Sirianni? Are you more higher on him, or are you more on the other side?
Yeah, no, I came away impressed. And it's like adjustments have to happen every single year. And it's not like adjusting to like, oh, this coach has done one way for 3 years. He has to adjust. Each team is different. Like every single year is completely different from the next. And you basically have to figure out, okay, what is my team? Some coaches have the luxury of, you have Tom Brady. You know exactly what your team is. Like Tom Brady's going to throw the ball 30, 40 times, and that's your team. Nick Sirianni didn't and coaches who take over teams like the Eagles were in bad shape as the Eagles were. Like, you don't know what your team is, and you're kind of figuring things out. You had a second-year quarterback. You had a rookie wide receiver. Dallas Goedert was now becoming the number 1 tight end. They weren't used to that because Zach Ertz was there for so long. Mm-hmm. So there were some things that the Eagles obviously were changing with the team that were becoming a little bit different, but he had to identify what his team could do well. And that sometimes takes teams a lot. Like, look at Cincinnati. Cincinnati's now in the championship Sunday. It took a little bit to figure out, like, okay, how do we win? Joe Burrow was always great, but they were kind of figuring themselves out, I think, through the season, and look at where they are. Each season is different, and I think that I was optimistic in seeing that he was able to figure out what worked well for this team, win with that, and get the team to the playoffs. Like, I think Nick Sirianni is a good coach. Now we're going to see, because one thing too, I felt like he was handcuffed a little bit by the fact that Jalen Hurts passing, and I know people get so mad over this, but like, he wasn't a good passer.
You're right though.
He was a bottom third of the league passer. And so I think he was handicapped a bit in the way he could call his offense. And so everybody's like, well, why the bubble screens? I'm like, well, because when you throw downfield over 20 yards, Jalen Hurts isn't doing it very well.
It's not working.
I would like to know what like the passing game would actually look like. But again, as long as Nick Sirianni can identify what his team does well and win with that, and he did with the Eagles, I'm okay with whatever he does. But I would like to see what his offense would look like if it could open up a little bit. And again, that could be Jalen Hurts improving as a pocket passer, and then you can see Nick Sirianni's offense. But I don't think we got the full extent of it this season, which I'm still kind of curious about what it would be.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I view the defense too. Like, when we look over at the defensive side, and again, I'm listening to the radio and everything, and
You're listening to the line change Monday through Friday from 8 to 11, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, all the time.
All the time. Yeah.
Isn't
that past your bedtime? I think actually
on iHeartRadio.
Yeah,
I got you.
Look at you.
Yeah, I'll help you out a little bit. But yeah. So when I listen to that, and I just hear the debate about Jonathan Gannon and everything, but he didn't. Just like how Nick Sirianni, I said he adjusted. Jonathan Gannon, he stayed in his same defense. He didn't do much adjusting. He saw things weren't working out. And if he did, it would be in the second half of the game and it might be too late. And just he just had a lot of issues that we saw. But just like how you use the handcuffing phrase, that's a lot of what I heard for Jonathan Gannon. Like, he doesn't have the defensive personnel to blitz. He doesn't have the linebackers to do it. I feel like we have enough players. Yeah, maybe they're not great at it. You don't have the best of the best, but you got guys. You got like Alex Singleton can blitz. I mean, he's not the fastest guy, but these guys can do it. And we didn't see Jonathan Gannon do it that often or just make many adjustments. He did the same thing. I mean, Gronk even called it out. Gronk, right before the game, he's like, we're playing against, I'm pretty sure he said a soft defense. And that's exactly what happened. Brady bullied the defense. Nothing got changed. And that's kind of my problem with Gannon, which kind of leads into the next segment. Gannon's getting all of these head coaching interviews. And me, I am like amazed by it. I mean, yeah, maybe he's a great person. Maybe he's great in interviews. I don't know. Maybe he's convincing them that he's an amazing coach. I don't know what it is. But when I see him defensively, I just don't get his mindset. I don't see adjustments happening. And maybe that means he's a better head coach. Maybe he can run a team really well. He just needs really good personnel around him. I'm not really sure. I can't put two and two together. I don't know if you can make something out of it and make me believe that maybe Gannon's better than I thought. Maybe I'm missing something, or are you kind of on board?
No, I thought Jonathan Gannon was fine. Like it wasn't like he's the greatest defensive coordinator in the NFL or anything.
Yeah,
but
I don't want to say he's terrible either. I don't want to say that either. I just didn't see him changing anything up. He was just keeping the same thing, right? When it wasn't working.
But that's where you do have to kind of come into there were personnel issues. Like he was the one who made the decision to put in eventually TJ Edwards, and that was great. Like he actually started to play well. Like they had linebacker problems all year. Like Alex Singleton played way too much, at least more than he should have with the talent that he is. He's an NFL linebacker, just shouldn't be on the field as much as he was.
Yeah. And
Brandon Graham being hurt and Fletcher Cox, man, like dude has done a lot for Philly. But like all these things of like,
he's average.
Oh, well, he's like, he was putting it on Gannon and the scheme and all that. I'm like, dude,
yeah, he was
like. But one-on-one, you should be winning matchups.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what Nick Sirianni's scheme is not telling you to stop pass rushing.
No.
Like your job is to do it. And Fletcher Cox just regressed. That's all it is. Fletcher Cox is regressing as a player. And it's not like he's a terrible player, but he's not what he was. And so like they were dealing with a defensive line that has aging players that were down one of their best in Brandon Graham. Like Josh Sweat, we were hoping could make a step up, but he just turned out to be a fine pass rusher. Like he's good. He should be in the rotation. He's a guy who's probably going to get 6-8 sacks a season, but he's not going to be a dominant pass rusher. So the defensive line was hampered. And when you don't have linebackers that can fill the gaps as well, like it was a lot to work or a lot working against them, I would say. And so when they're trying to play soft too, I just felt that was a bit of, they couldn't really be aggressive, because if they're being aggressive, they're just going to be wildly aggressive for no reason. So I think Gannon had to deal with some personnel problems and a little bit of like the way they were playing. I know Eagles fans got mad about it, but the Eagles basically were just trying to shorten the game up big time. Like they were trying to limit possessions for each team, because what the Eagles are doing with that soft zone is it's a lot of dink and dunk. It's a lot of time off the clock. So like there are these really long drives. The Eagles don't have a chance in that Chargers game if they don't play defense the way that they did. They don't have a chance at all. Everybody gets mad like, well, they scored on all their possession. Dude, they scored 27 points. They would have scored 40 if the Eagles were trying to be aggressive, or they would have given up so many big plays. So in what they did, they shortened up the game. They gave their offense a chance to keep up, and also with the running game, with how good it was consistent at that time. Like they gave them a chance. So I think it was a little bit too of like, that's just how the Eagles were. Like that's the style that they wanted to play. That's the kind of game that they wanted to play. And Jonathan Gannon was just playing within that. Could they be aggressive at times or more aggressive? Sure. But I don't know. I don't see what difference it would have made, because they won more games than they should have. And that also means the defense was a part of it. Like the defense didn't break. And I thought they could have ended up really breaking bad this season, and they didn't.
Right. But like in that Chargers game too, and this is just one example. It's going to be one of the bigger examples. Even at the end of the game, like how long of a drive was it that the Chargers went down the field and just wasted the entire clock? I don't even remember how long it was, but it was like a 6 or 7 minute drive. But I feel like at those times, Gannon could have made more decisions like, hey, they've been getting these long drives on us the entire time. And I get it. Like, yeah, like we're limiting points, but now it's hitting a point where we need to get a stop quick because the offense needs to get back out on the field. And I just feel like I didn't see even any adjustments then. You know what I mean? It's weird. And maybe I am just missing it.
No, look, it's not like you're missing much. Like
Right.
it's not Jonathan Gannon. It's great, but the thing is, like that's also not what makes a great coach. Like there are plenty of guys who are great coordinators that didn't make great coaches, and I think there are plenty of guys who weren't great coordinators and made awesome coaches.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
it's not like Jonathan Gannon's going to be a bad coach. Heck, we didn't even know if Nick Sirianni was going to be a good coach, and look what he's done. He's been great. Yeah, well, I mean, we still don't, but he's a lot better than people were giving him credit for.
He adjusts.
Like,
that's what really matters.
Yeah, he was being talked about like Nick Sirianni was being talked about like Adam was. Like, who the hell is this guy? Why is he getting interviews? Why is he being hired?
Like what? Like I'm on the. He should have got. He shouldn't have won a Coach of the Year, but he should have got a little bit of consideration.
Probably. I mean, with the way the Eagles were, but there were so many others too.
So many coaches.
Yeah, and like we always stick in that bubble of the narrative that we have been hearing about the Eagles, and we get caught up in the they weren't supposed to be good and now they're good.
Easily,
there's so many other teams around the league. Like Mike Vrabel and the Titans should have never been a number 1 seed. That should have never been even close to that number 1 seed. And the fact that they did was remarkable. Like Zach Taylor, they don't have a great defense at all. I'm not saying Zach Taylor's a great coach, but he should get consideration for it because that team's a lot better than they should have been. So yeah, Nick Sirianni, I think should have obviously been in somewhat of the conversation. But also there was just so many other coaches that made big splashes this year that were really good.
Yeah, just had great.
Mike Tomlin got Pittsburgh to the playoffs. Like Ben Roethlisberger couldn't walk from here to this damn wall behind me in freaking 10 minutes.
That team was god awful,
terrible. The Pittsburgh Steelers were winning games literally by like under 20. These games would all be held under 20 points. Their offense couldn't score anything. Their defense wasn't even that good, but they would just gut out performances in games and win. Like Ben Roethlisberger couldn't throw the ball, man. He was completely physically diminished, and they still won games. I don't know how.
It was like
that's the NFL.
So sad and funny watching Big Ben this year.
I know.
It really was.
It got to a point though, and I was even trying to say, like, I was making jokes about this. Like, it was disgusting to actually watch it. It wasn't even football.
No, it was bad.
You were watching a bunch of old dudes, like 40-year-old dudes at Turkey Bowl, basically. Like that's what you're watching. It wasn't football, and so I think it was the Browns Steelers game. I think on a Monday night. It's like and people are gonna tune in and watch this. Like this is what they want to do on a Monday night. I think this is entertaining. It's football. It's gonna be great. It was awful. Like I didn't watch a second of that game. It was ridiculous.
You'd rather do anything else on that Monday night than watch.
I'd rather, and I did, watch Japanese wrestling at 3 a.m. 3 in the morning. So I was not tuning in for that. Like if you're judging me for that, I'm absolutely gonna judge you for watching Ben Roethlisberger on a Monday night.
And then just ending off with the Eagles talk, the report that came out today, QB coach Brian Johnson is expected to interview for the Green Bay Packers offensive coordinator job. Now, I feel like I remember this report in the beginning of the season where Jalen Hurts really liked Brian Johnson. These two were close. I feel like I heard that before. I'm not 100% sure on that.
Bring Jalen Hurts there with him. Aaron Rodgers in there anymore.
Go ahead, involve that.
You know what? You take Brian Johnson, just do a little quarterback swap.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you can have Johnson. Go ahead. Yeah. But having him leave, and we know how if Hurts was really close to this QB coach, now Hurts another year, he can have another QB coach. That would be his third different coach in his third year. We've seen these kind of things happen. We've seen, I hate even bringing up Baker Mayfield, but Baker Mayfield has gone through a different coach and offensive coordinator, QB coach every single year since he's been in here. But how much can this really affect Jalen Hurts? You know, if he keeps on going through these changes, now these QB coaches are like, hey, I need you to do that. I think you should do it like this, or however that he's going to coach him better. I feel like that can really affect him. Maybe not to a point where it's crazy. It's not going to change anything major, but just having the different, like changing quarterbacks, or changing coaches over and over, I feel like would just mess things up
This question just proves how much the Carson Wentz stuff damaged our brain. Because like there was so much talk about like Frank Reich's not there anymore and John DeFilippo,
well,
and
that's
why
different
doing
though.
good. No. Like everybody was just like, we were all in this frenzy of whether or not Carson Wentz was bad or not, and so we would make either any excuse or we would say criticize him for anything. And like every time we brought up like John DeFilippo. Nobody cares about the quarterbacks coach. Nobody knows who this guy is. Yeah. What this is, and quarterback coaches are going to change all the time because what is their goal? Their goal is to be an offense coordinator somewhere, and then also be an offense coordinator to a head coach somewhere. Like Brian Johnson came to the Eagles with also a lot of recognition from the league of knowing that guy's probably going to be moving up and be an offensive coordinator, head coach at some point. Right. Like Brian Johnson's name was being thrown around a lot. When the Eagles hired him, like the NFL, I remember like everybody in the NFL that was reporting this was going, yeah, this sounds about right. Everybody's kind of, has this guy on their radar. So he's going to move on. Every quarterback coach is going to move on. It should not affect Jalen Hurts. And yeah, offensive coordinators changing. You want to at least have some kind of system there that works, and you want that to be stable. But it changes all the time. It's never going to be the same. Like every single quarterback is going to go through multiple different systems. Justin Herbert is, and Justin Herbert's still putting up 36 touchdowns this season. So obviously you would want some kind of stability, but it's going to change. Like this is just part of the NFL, and for me to think like that, a quarterback coach moving on is going to make a difference for Hurts. Like it really doesn't.
Right. And getting coaches plucked from your team,
it's a great thing.
It's great. It's awesome. Yeah. You have a great staff.
Staff. And I'll even pick apart a quote from the Union coach Jim Curtin, Philadelphia Union Soccer, by the way. You can hear that on Fox Sports The Gambler this season, February 26th. First game, by the way. Look at me being a company man.
You know what? I can't believe you didn't plug it. This is the first time you plugged it in 42 minutes.
I know. But he has a great quote, and I love it, is that team success ends up leading to individual success. And the Eagles were successful this year. Like the Eagles had 9 wins that nobody thought was going to happen. Jalen Hurts improved, and nobody thought Jalen Hurts was going to even be at least even what he is now. There were a lot of things that improved on this team. So with the team success, obviously individuals are going to find their success as well. And I think that's just what's happening with Johnson, with Gannon, and all those guys. I even think player personnel, guys that are in the front office are also getting jobs in places. So yeah, it's just what happens when a team is successful, and the Eagles have been pretty successful in the last 5 years.
And hopefully it only gets better. We can only hope, right?
Nah, get worse. Why not? I love when things get worse. Let's just drop a bit of chaos on this.
Yeah. I mean, the title of this episode is
Gardner Minshew's the starting quarterback. Wait,
no. That was only
Did you see that sword play? Come on.
Sword video? Oh.
Does Jalen Hurts have a katana? Probably not.
Probably not.
No. I hope he doesn't, by the way. Only backup quarterbacks are allowed to do crazy things, not starting ones.
Yeah.
The title of it is "Man, I Wish the Eagles Played This Weekend," and I really wish they were. Yeah, I do wish, because right now it's hitting the point where I'm really starting to miss Eagles football. It's been a few weeks, and I'm like, man, like it's actually like I really have to wait.
Draining. That season drained everybody's
but still, just seeing the Eagles out there on the field, watching them, waiting for Sunday. Like it hits Monday, and like, all right, I'm ready for Sunday already. You know what I mean? Like just having that.
Get to that Bucks game, dude. I'm good. I'll wait another.
Yeah, I'm good.
Next season.
But this season was all about still. Moving on from Carson, it ended up being about that. Nobody wants to say it, but it ended up being as much as it was about Hurts improving and Sirianni improving. It was all about all of that toxic kind of stuff that was going on last season worked its way into this year, and it just still didn't make it fun because I would love to just go on here and be like, yeah, I think Jalen Hurts really needs to improve in a lot of fundamental places, but then everybody takes that as, so you think he's terrible, but did you see Carson? No, come on, man. It's just, I didn't think he was really that good. There were a lot of fundamental flaws. We can leave it at that. It doesn't have to be such a crazy frenzy of a take.
Yeah. So now this weekend, very excited again.
What's happening this weekend? Rumble?
This weekend is the Royal Rumbles tomorrow night. Yeah, sure.
College basketball slate tomorrow.
College basketball. That's right. There is college basketball.
Yeah, it's a lot of it.
Yeah, not a lot today. Unless you like Ivy League basketball.
Yeah, I put a little money on Harvard. They lost.
Did you? Yeah, I was going to, and I stayed away from it. I was like,
job.
do I really want to bet Harvard in this game?
Very good job.
Do that?
Yeah, we know because John posts his bet slips all the time on Twitter, and it's always just X's, just all X's.
Johnny Bricks. Hey, I'm 5-6. Relax. There's some green. Yesterday was a weird day. So I had a push yesterday. I had a win. A push meaning that it just tied, like the book and myself tied. So I had a push. I had a win, and I had a game that was suspended because of court conditions. Like, this was a good day. Like, I think I did well. I didn't lose any of my bets. But also, I have one that's still hanging in the balance, and another one that just pushed. Like, I don't know. I feel good, I guess, about this.
Of course you would.
It was a weird day. Right. I'll take it. I'll take it more than the losses. But
yeah. So this Sunday, you got any bets lined up for this Sunday for what I hope to be a good week or good couple games of football? Yeah, we got Championship Sunday. Very excited for it, but
Super Championship Sunday.
Yeah, let's just keep on adding super to everything. Yeah. The Super Bowl, the Super Pro Bowl. It's something they do. But do you have any bets we line up for then? And then also, just who do you have coming out on top of both games?
I am a square better this weekend. Usually you want to try and be the sharp one. You want to figure out where everybody else is and find the places that, you think you can kind of sneak in on when everybody's maybe too high on a team, too low on them, whatever it is. But I'm being the square. Like the favorites are just the better teams. Mm-hmm. Home teams have been 13-3 in the last 16 games and also 11-5 against the spread. So home teams win, and it's for a reason because they have the home field advantage. And what's the reason why they have home field? Because they were a better team throughout the season. Yeah. Like we have seen through a sample size, a large one, that the home team is better. They have the better record. They won more games, and they're there. So for the most part, they are the better teams. And I think I am, getting the better team. I think the Rams are better than the 49ers. Everybody's going to look back at that 0-6 record that Sean McVay has against Shanahan. Obviously, you can't escape that. But they were really close to making that 1-5 in Week 18. Mm-hmm. It's not like the Rams went in there and Sean McVay's like, I have no answer for this. Yeah. He's throwing things at me I've never seen before. No, they crushed them in the first half, and they did like they did against Tampa Bay. They kind of just took their foot off the gas, didn't end up throwing balls much, tried to run, and then the turnover started to happen. So as long as they don't implode in the second half, they should be fine against the 49ers. And the Chiefs are just way too overpowered.
Too damn good.
Yeah, they are. Like Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league right now, and it's not even close. I love Joe Burrow too. Joe Burrow is really good.
That's sacked 9 times though.
Right.
It's and after watching that Bills Chiefs game, like the Bills couldn't stop Mahomes. The 40.
No, and that was
how are the Bengals
statistically the best defense in the league.
Statistically, yeah, and the Bengals are a very bad defense. I test stats, so.
No, and the offense is the unit that's supposed to be really sharp for them. Like that's their best unit by far. They pass the ball really well because Joe Burrow's good and their wide receivers are great. They haven't really been that well in the playoffs. Like the Raiders, they didn't do that well. They struggled a little bit, only put up 26 points, and still it wasn't a very convincing 26 points. And then Tennessee, this was supposed to be easy for them. Not easy, but they were supposed to put up a lot of points, right? The wide receivers, Tennessee doesn't cover them very well, and they have 2 great ones, and they only scored 19 points. So, and that was with 3 turnovers that Tannehill had.
Yeah.
So it's. Yeah. I think the Cincinnati just kind of been time and place. Like I think they played the right teams at the right time. Like Tennessee was a vulnerable number 1 and they took them down. And also the Raiders, I think, just ran out of gas. Like really tough season, emotional game against the Chargers to get into the playoffs. And I think they just ran out of gas. But this is different. Like the Kansas City has been here 4 times. They're at home, which Arrowhead's a great place to play. And Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are a better quarterback coach duo than Zach Taylor and Joe Burrow. So and Tyreek Hill's still a better receiver than Jamar Chase. And Travis Kelce's the best player on the field almost at all times. And even guys like Byron Pringle and Mecole Hart. Mecole Hart has been fantastic.
He's been great.
Last few games. So it's the team is also improving, which, if that's the case, then this is like, and 7.5 is a big number. And it does have me kind of questioning, man, is that really what I want to lay my points on? But I think I'm fine laying 7.5. I think they win by multiple touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Thoughts on the over? George? Thoughts on the over?
The over for that game, I'm worried about it. I've heard a lot of the over because I think it was 54.5 at the time. I don't know if it's gone up.
Yeah,
it's gone up.
No, it's 54.5.
Okay, still 54.5. Yeah, and which is already high. I'm again, like I just said about Cincinnati, it's not like Joe Burrow's been coming out and throwing 4 touchdown passes a game. He didn't throw any of his last game, I think.
No,
he 348 yards.
Yeah.
They only had 19 points.
They had one offensive touchdown.
So I don't think I believe that it's gonna go down the same way that they happen in the regular season. Like, I don't think it's going to be a 34-31 game. I'm worried that the Bengals offense, and again, we're talking about a championship playoff game. We're talking about on the road, and with a team that also doesn't have a great offensive line and also struggles on defense. Like, it's going to lead to, I think, Cincinnati being maybe the moment being a little bit too big for them. Not Joe Burrow, but the moment for Cincinnati themselves being a little bit too big, and it just comes a little bit overwhelming for them.
I just want points. I mean, when last week when we were talking,
I love points. I love touchdowns.
It's fun to root
touchdowns are fun.
Yeah, last week we were talking about the Chiefs and Bills game. Like before the game, we were previewing it, and I made a wild statement. I was like, "This game's gonna hit 80 to 100 points, and I wouldn't be shocked if it hits 100 somehow." And they came out, and he was like, "Dude, you should bet like your life savings on the over." And I just wish I would just like smash.
Bills and Chiefs was fun. That was and insane. Great for prop bets too. I mean, there were a bunch of guys that scored that were like plus 300. Patrick Mahomes was plus 350, I think, for an anytime. Like there was, that game was a lot. There was a lot going on in that one.
A lot of fun.
Unlike this, not fun at all.
Funny guy.
Hey, don't worry. We got another funny guy in the comments too. Phil says 2 good-looking dudes in Jeremy.
Nice.
There you see. Phil knows.
Yeah.
Come on, man. You ugly, bro.
Phil's just mad because I don't wake up in the morning and do a morning show with him anymore. That's why he's upset. That's why he's mad at me.
He should be mad at you. Wake up. Come on, man.
Hey, I switched my
shifts.
Wake up. I got an excuse.
Oh, you switched shifts.
Yeah. I don't need to hear from you anymore, all right? All right, we only got 10 more minutes on here. I'm ready for it already. But MLB Hall of Fame voting did come out. The most terrible thing. Happy for David Ortiz. Love it. I mean, that guy
he took PEDs
over everything.
He didn't deserve it.
He actually took steroids.
Terrible. But other guys, obviously, Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, all these other names that now have been on the ballot for 10 years and will not be Hall of Famers. Like, there's no coming back from this. Terrible. Just make all of the writers, they're just a joke. Like I just can't believe the entire thing. Barry Bonds is the best player like of all time. Like in my eyes, best player of all time. And we will never see anything like it. And he's not in the Hall of Fame. Now, I don't respect the Hall of Fame at all anymore. Also, maybe they come to their senses at the end. It's been bad before, but now it hits the mark. It's like, all right, this is the last time. Like let's be serious and let's just get these guys in real quick because they need to be in. And the all-time home run leader is not in the Hall of Fame. I saw a stat. If you take out all of Barry Bonds' home runs, he has a higher on-base percentage than David Ortiz.
And turn them into outs.
Yeah. Sorry, and turn them into outs. Yeah. Still has a higher on-base percentage than David Ortiz. Every home run.
Insane. I'm more upset that Ryan Howard's off the ballot after 1 year.
Yeah, that's pretty sad. That's pretty sad.
It's probably right, but my 13-year-old self doesn't really agree with that.
It's completely right, but I don't agree in my heart. I don't agree.
Jimmy Rollins stayed on though.
Yes, he did, and he deserves to stay on. I don't know if he's. I think he's a Hall of Famer, but I'm not sure. The thing is, I'm not sure about all of it, and it's one of the. There's so many problems with baseball. Baseball as a sport is fine. It's the on the field stuff is completely fine. It's great. All the crap that happens outside of it, like the Hall of Fame, like the fact that they can't celebrate. Baseball more than any other sport has the best history. Like baseball history is so much better than the NFL. Baseball's been around longer than the NFL. It's been around longer than the NHL. It's one of the longest lasting sports in this entire country. And they don't celebrate the history enough or do it well enough. Like because it becomes a pissing contest essentially between writers and fans, or these decrepit old dudes and fans. And it's like, all right, well, you're taking the fun out of all this because now I can't even celebrate the history. I got to figure out whether or not you are going to vote for him just because you have some kind of dilemma against him or something. Vendetta against him. I just like. They're gatekeeping baseball away. Like all the people are voting for and it's not even the Hall of Fame. It's just like in general, like gatekeeping baseball away from people that actually really want to enjoy it. And they're making it incredibly hard to. Like, I can't stand it. I think soccer's one that because I think I've even seen it from myself, injecting myself into like MLS and, being a part of the union broadcast and stuff. Like, soccer's not really gatekeepy, soccer's just enjoyed by everyone. There's so many different leagues to enjoy, players to enjoy, all that. Like it's fun to get into. Baseball's not fun to get into. It's truly not. Baseball is incredibly difficult to get through that barrier of like, okay, I just want to enjoy the sport. But there's so many people that like tell you things that are either wrong with the game that really aren't, or again, gatekeeping the Hall of Fame and saying like, oh, you can't enjoy Barry Bonds because Barry Bonds took steroids.
Yeah,
it's such a gate.
The dude saved the sport.
Yeah, it's a league that's very much gated by a lot of people, and it's very tough to break through that gate for some, and some don't feel like pushing through it. Like you and I did, and all of us. Like I was able to push through it because the Phillies are really great, and I loved Ryan Howard. Ryan Howard is my favorite player of all time. It's the reason why I really got into baseball. So there was something there for me to help be the catalyst for why I like it. But that's not going to be for a lot of people. Like it's you can't just casually watch baseball. Like it's so hard.
You gotta love it.
Exactly. You gotta love it. Exactly.
And like dude, like these writers that profited off the steroid era, and they're keeping these steroid guys that clearly deserve to be in the Hall of Fame just off. Like the Hall of Fame is just to celebrate history and to celebrate the game, right? Like you cannot tell the story of baseball without talking about.
Yeah, and you know what? The NFL's sort of doing this with TO, but it's much more on a larger scale than even that though. Like it's even gated more by like we have to like who you are as a person. Like you have to have to be nice to the media. You have to be so kind to us and tell us we're the greatest, and we'll let you in. David Ortiz smiled, joined him, and got in the Hall of Fame, even though he took steroids.
He did take steroids.
Yeah, it's gated by a bunch of people that just don't actually love the sport. They just love themselves. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one of the ballots that really pissed me off was there's a guy, I don't remember his name because it came out a couple weeks ago before the results came out. But this is his second year straight that he voted one guy, and it was Jeff Kent. He voted just Jeff Kent, and he did it 2 years. He got heat for it last year, and he did it again.
On a ballot with Bonds, A-Rod, Clemens. It's just like
the voting system needs to be done in the first place. There just needs to be like a committee or something and be like, okay, 3 or 4 guys every year get in, because to have one person doing a Hall of Fame, it's stupid. And then they're going to bury it in the middle of the summer on a day that nobody knows when it is.
It's going to be a terrible ceremony.
Like, again, I would love to celebrate the Hall of Fame and celebrate these players, but then Major League Baseball does it on a random day in the middle of the day that nobody knew it was happening, and it's only on the MLB Network. When NFL, it's like they do an entire week around it. Like the Hall of Fame game, like everything is built around celebrating these historic players and celebrating great history. It's so much better, and it's so much more of a celebratory thing. When baseball, it's just a side note, man. Like the WWE Hall of Fame is more credence than the MLB one does. Like seriously, like I take, and it's not even a real thing.
Mike Tyson,
like WWE just picks guys like, hey, cool, do you want to be in the Hall of Fame? Awesome, we love to do it. It's so much better. It's because they do it right before WrestleMania, and I know I'm doing an analogy of something that I know a lot of people don't watch, but like this is. I'm going to even throw around the F word. It is a fake sport that does Hall of Fame a lot better than an actual sport with history does. Like, and that's just, it's incredibly sad.
You're right. You actually brought that up at the perfect time because, we're right around the hour mark, which is kind of when the show stops. But Royal Rumble, I know you're a wrestling fan. I'm also a wrestling fan.
Wow. You wait for the end of the show for Rumble. Wow. Oh, wow. Yeah. I see where wrestling gets put on the billing here.
You should see where the Union are.
Yeah. Wow.
We have to bring a whole guy on.
The one good team in Philly, and you want to trash on. Jeez.
Yeah. We have to bring a whole guy.
A team that actually spends money now. How about that? This team actually spends money.
Yeah.
Come on. I got one Union guy that just feeds me the news, so I'm in the loop.
Yeah, El Parcero Philly, that's you out there.
He's a great guy. I see him on Union Twitter all the time.
Yeah, he's all over. He's awesome. But Royal Rumble's tomorrow night. Just some quick predictions. I mean, first of all, about the Royal Rumble matches.
That's my prediction.
I know you will. I know you will. I get off work at 4 and I'm sitting my ass on the couch and I'm not doing anything all night. That's exactly what I'm going to be doing.
That is my prediction.
Yeah. So for the men's and women's Royal Rumble, who is kind of something that who's someone you could see actually winning either of those matches?
I don't know, because I thought it was Big
Men's
E,
is
and
hard.
then there was a bunch of stuff that happened. Like Big E's apparently on SmackDown again. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I don't know what. I thought Big E, probably not.
The men's is
Bayley-
hard. The men's is hard.
The men's is hard because I have no idea, because I thought like Lashley would have won it, and he's champion now.
Right.
Or not Lashley. Lesnar would have won it, but he's champion now. But the women's side, I think Bayley does come back and Bayley wins it.
Oh, you got Bayley?
Yeah, I think
that'd be cool. It'd be a great moment.
Yeah, there's nothing like a good return, like there's nothing better than a wrestler coming back like Bayley and winning. I'm all in on that.
I think she's gonna be a 2-time Royal Rumble winner. I think she'll last to be the only one for a long time. I think she'll get it in back-to-back years. You know who it is?
Forgetting.
Dude, she won last year. You literally just said on your show
that
it's
one of my favorite Rumbles.
Ones. It's one of your favorite Rumbles.
If it wasn't for my favorite wrestler last year winning, I wouldn't remember it. I remember things that happened during that Rumble. I completely forgot who won it.
Bianca
I have
Belair.
no idea. That's
Bianca
right.
Belair.
Bianca Belair.
Yeah.
Did.
I have Bianca Belair coming out and winning a second.
And it was like her and Ripley at the end. It was great. It
was great. It was an amazing match. But I think she's someone that's going to come out, and I think they're going to try and right their wrongs of what they kind of messed up last year with her, because I feel like they just didn't do her right last year. So I really think that she's going to come out and win it again.
It's going to be fun. I would like that Ripley getting it. There are plenty. Well, at least not as much anymore because they've released a bunch of them. But yeah, there's still like plenty I would like to see. And even on the preview we did on my show, somebody threw out that Lita would win, and I actually thought that was genius. I thought that'd be great.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. Yeah, I'm ready for it.
And then just one more match: Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. I've always been a huge Seth Rollins fan ever since the
Seth
Shield.
Freaking Rollins, get it
Seth
right. You're a journalist.
Rollins.
You're a journalist. You got to say his actual name.
Seth freaking Rollins. I need him to win this match, but I know he's not going to. But I want him to so bad. I know he's not, because I know it's going to be Brock. I think Brock's going to lose the title to Lashley. Then Brock's going to come back in the Royal Rumble out of nowhere, win the Rumble. Then he's going to do him versus Reigns at WrestleMania. I know it's going to happen, but I need Seth freaking Rollins
to add to that. That's
to win
exactly
it.
what's
I got
gonna
Seth
happen.
freaking Rollins. I need that man to win.
You guys are both in agreement with that?
I actually am. Yes.
Yeah,
Nice.
It's something that they do.
Reigns is not going to lose. Reigns is golden boy.
And that's, I hate it though. I need Seth. I need Seth to win that title.
Yeah. Welcome to being a WWE fan, buddy. Welcome.
Hey,
I need a lot
that's
of
what we
things.
do. All right. So I think that is going to be everything. Went over a lot today. We did miss out on the Sixers, but with everything that's going
Simmons
on, I
isn't
think that's probably
playing.
better.
Ben Simmons hasn't been traded yet. All you need to know.
That's all you need to know.
I literally have a Sixers guest on my show every week, and it's the same thing of nothing's happening.
Exactly.
Joel Embiid's killing it. That's about it.
Yeah, that's all that hasn't done the entire time. Every time we do a show, George is just like, yeah, by the way, guys, we are witnessing an amazing player. I compare it to Bryce Harper last year. You have the MVP playing on a very mediocre to bad team. It's just going to, that I think it's perfect.
They are mediocre. Yeah. They're
exactly. So that's pretty much all we got today. Went over the Birds, hearing John's thoughts on that. It was whatever, we kind of had to bring him.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It was whatever, I guess. And then we went on to conference championship games and just a lot to go over. It was a lot of fun. John, thanks again coming on, even though we messed around and everything. It's always great having you on. Hopefully have you on soon.
Hopefully. I would like
hopefully to. We'll see. I mean, we'll see how well it went. All right. For some reason, there were some comments on here just way too excited to see you. I don't get what it is.
Really?
But there's a couple on here, believe it or not. Wow. I got a couple John Jansons with exclamation points.
Wow.
Yeah, people are liking it.
Then Look at that, 3 of them. Those are that's fun. I know him. Yeah, come on.
Way too many Johns. Yeah, you do know him. Still. Yeah. There it is right there. But again, thanks for coming on. Hopefully have you on soon. George, you got anything else to say before we end the show?
Nah, man, thank you for coming on. It was a great time.
Appreciate it. Yeah,
enjoy the weekend. I hope you guys enjoy the Royal Rumble. And then you got football the next day. So it's a loaded nice weekend.
Oh, loaded is the word of the weekend.
Yeah, I was going to say John's hammered all weekend.
That is the word of the weekend.
All right. Thank you guys again for all the support. Support's been out of this world since we actually started this show. Just views have gone up all over, a lot more likes and everything. So I really appreciate all the love that everyone's given out. Thank you guys so much. You know that we are live every Monday and Friday night at 9 p.m. Next Monday, It is pretty much going to be a post-game show for the Sixers. So right when the game ends, that we'll be live with Scotty. You guys all know Scotty from Scotty Talk, so he's going to be on the show with us. So we are very excited. Wish you guys Monday night, and even though Birds aren't playing, I'm still going to end it off with Go Birds.